Oh, hello. Today we're going to be talking about the Void Dancer Troupe, otherwise known as the White Dwarf Harlequin team, for Kill Team. So I want to start off by telling people not to panic. There's been a lot of videos up from the big Kill Team content creators sort of talking about the balance of Harlequins. For me, discussions around the Kill Team metagame move at lightning speed, and I know that lots of people play a lot more games than me. I try and get a game in every week. That's not necessarily happened over Easter. And I try and go to the Warhammer World events. And then there are some people that grind like every single tournament that runs in London, all the independent stores. And there are some people that play like a lot on Tabletop Simulator. So I know that there are people out there that have a better idea of what they're talking about, but still, I think people underestimate the effect of all the chat about how broken or how much something needs a nerf, and there'll be lots of people who are more casual players who've played like one game, and now they're just going to receive this received wisdom and do that thing people do, whereas somebody who is polite and personable, charming, states something with authority, that just then becomes the thing that everybody believes. So if you love Harlequins, I'm not here to tell you that you're a cheese salesman and that your team needs a nerf and that you're ruining everybody's game. I think if I do want to say something about balance, it is interesting to me now that there's a number of stronger teams emerging. Whether some of the things that have been nerfed in the past needed to be nerfed, it'd be interesting to play 4 APL Custodes into Harlequins or similar and see what happened. But yeah, they might be broken and they might need a bit of a nerf. Games Workshop does not put out perfect sets of rules. I would say that I am not a particularly good kill team player. Zimbad is an excellent kill team player, and his first game with Harlequins, with the new Harlequins White Dwarf rules, I actually won, and he lost. And partially, I had a rematch, and he won. But actually, even the rematch, his victory was narrower than previous victories that he's had with the Compendium team. Now, that's not me staking out the position that the White Dwarf Harlequins are weaker than Compendium Harlequins, but they're different, and you need to play them differently. And the strategies that you could employ with Compendium Harlequins don't work because they have been nerfed. Like, I'm not saying they've been nerfed overall. I'm saying that there have been nerfs and there have been buffs, and the net of that nerfs and buffs needs to be kind of worked out, I think, with a bit more time and a bit more rolling of dice. All right. So these are my takes, but I just wanted to address the kind of little bit of panic there is at the moment online about Harlequins perhaps being the next, they're the next Pathfinders, they're going to dominate every event. Maybe they will, maybe they will. I'm not saying they're definitely not. I'm just saying chill out and let people enjoy. It's one of these things. If you are somebody that goes to an event and you've been playing Pathfinders at every event, and then Harlequins come out and you look at it and you go, oh, that's the new stuff, and you want to buy Harlequin, you go straight into the store wherever you play, you pick up the Harlequins, take them home, build them up and paint them, and then take them to the events. Then the next thing comes out and you pick that up. And no, more power to you. I'm not, but just please understand that not everybody is like that. Some people, maybe they have a big Harlequin army, 40k, it's happening in 40k as well, that the Harlequins are dominating. Maybe it's just something that they love, and actually it's, in some respects, it feels quite bad when the thing that you love, everyone goes, oh, no, that's filthy, only real tryhards play with that, and you're like, actually, I'm playing them because I really love their fluff and their lore. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one. Anyway, enough kind of rambling. I've already wasted about 5 minutes. That'll be half a video on another channel, but I'm just going to keep talking until I run out of steam. So try not to be too worried about it. Let's get into the rundown, eh? Let's get into the rundown. So introduction. Infiltration, recon, seek and destroy. So not security. You know how I feel about the security deck. It's just really, really good. But they make up for it when we get to the end of the presentation. We're going to see their bespoke, their tac ops. 2 of them are really, really good though. So, you know, they can play around it. They can build. Is it recon with things in it like triangulate that are quite easy to score if you're very mobile as well. They can build a good deck, even though they don't have security, which is good. Building their team is really straightforward, and this is one of my favourite things about Harlequin Kill Team. It wasn't the fact that Zimbad already was doing Harlequins and Mrs. Tabletop Impulse was already doing Harlequins. I might even pick up a Harlequin Kill Team for this one reason, which is they're a really beginner-friendly faction in terms of the purchases that you're going to want to make. So, you used to need 2 boxes of the Void Dancer Troupe. You don't anymore. You get 1 box and your 2 characters, and you've got a set of 8 models that are they can all be quite different. They can all be quite individual. You've got 2/3 characters. I mean, you've got your lead player, but your lead player, Harlequin's a Strange, your lead player is just really the sergeant type model from the Troupe. But even in 40k, he's like a HQ, or he was at one point. I don't know if he still is, but it's yes, you've got your 8 guys, your box of 6 plus 2 characters. I think that's a really neat starting point. It does mean if you want to start Harlequins, I think one of those valuable things I can do in this video is at least give you my take on how you should build your models, because that's the trap with 40k, right? I run a school club, you know, kids, 11-year-olds all the way up to some 15-year-olds. You buy the models, you're excited, you build them with what looks cool, and then you consult the rulebook and learn that actually that really cool looking cannon is trash in game, and what you wanted was the kind of inexpensive and reliable pistol option that was tucked away in the corner of the sprue. So 40k for my money is the only game system well, Kill Team 40k, the Games Workshop ecosystem, but Games Workshop are the only people that I know of where you buy the miniature and the options that you take with your hobby brain actually impact your I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, that hobby actually directly reflects what you see on the tabletop, but it does mean that even if you're someone like me who's a bit of a hobby hero who plays things, before Kill Team came out I basically never played. I built 40k armies and painted them and played once in, it would be like 4 times a year, twice at Christmas and twice in the summer, but I wanted to keep up with the rules and know the rules, so I knew that I was building the things in the right way. So that's what I'm going to try and talk a little bit about in this video, is how to build things, how to glue the arms on. I will say that if you like Harlequins and you want to build it up and have them in 40k as well, I believe they've changed the rules in 40k so that your melee weapon options in your Harlequin squad don't make that much difference anymore. Because they've just done very similar to what they did for the novitiate rule for 40k, where they just go, oh yeah, it's got novitiate weapons. I think these guys are just like, oh yeah, it's got Harlequin weapons. Don't quote me on that, because I'm not a 40k rules expert. I'm barely a Kill Team rules expert, but honestly, I think I've played about 2 games of 9th edition 40k ever. But I think that's what's happened with that. Let's move on. Rambly, very rambly today. This is going to be a long video. So you've got your lead player. Now I didn't cover it on the previous screen because I'm very stupid, but you can have 1 fusion pistol and 1 Euro disruptor in your team, right? Doesn't matter. Different data sheets have the options on, but you can have 1 fusion pistol and 1 Euro disruptor on your team. Now the lead player has standard leader thing where he has BSWS 2+. Everyone else on the team, even the other characters, even the sniper character, has 3-up BS. Now, let's just briefly, from a lore perspective, what we're saying is the lead player, the guy that leads the troop, is a better shooting character than the sniper. Which you'd think they'd just give the lead players the big Death Jester cannons and then tell them that they would Death Jester, but I digress. He has the 2-up, therefore you put your fusion pistol, your short-range melter weapon on him. It goes without saying you're going to take both these weapons. You're going to take the fusion pistol, you're going to take the Euro disruptor. I give you lead player your fusion pistol, and you also give him the power weapon. It's exclusive to him. He can wield it. None of the other Harlequins can take a power weapon, so you give him the power weapon. Power weapons are really good. Rules wise, so we'll go through the data sheet because we'll do it once and then we'll only have to talk about the differences. So the stat block is consistent throughout all of the Harlequins. 3 Sir standard, GA1 standard, 3 defense standard, only a 6-up save, but you've got a 4-up invuln down here. Okay, 9 wounds. All the character type ones have 9 wounds. The little basic, I say little, they're pretty strong, but the basic players go down to 8 wounds. And right down here, they've got the fly keyword. It's really funny to me. I bet there's people that play this game, that play Harlequins, that miss this. Because it's tucked away down here with all this stuff that doesn't really come up very often in the game. And it's such a powerful rule that you can just basically ignore the terrain on the table and just flow around it. Okay, so that's the lead player. Go look at the Death Jester. So he's worse at shooting than the lead player, which is pretty funny. He's got a Shrieker Cannon. His Shrieker Cannon, you roll 5 dice hitting on 3s, 4/5 damage. You have Rending, so if you crit, you get another crit. So if you crit, you can turn one of your hits into a crit. Heavy, ignore that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Humbling Cruelty, which is a special rule. So each time a friendly operative makes a shooting attack with this weapon, in the result, successful hit, step up the shooting attack. If the target loses any wounds, it's injured until the end of the turning point. So, in other words, if you hurt someone with this and you don't kill them, then they still have the penalty as if they were injured, even if you haven't reduced. To be honest, it's a very strong profile. Now, this could be the novitiate player in me. He's going to smite what he aims at, I guess, unless you're playing into Marines, maybe Legionaries. He's not quite going to one-shot the Legionaries. But I would imagine most of the time he's taking things down to half health. What I would be interested to know, if there are any rules lawyers in the comments, if you are a Death Jester shooting at a Plague Marine, does Humbling Cruelty mean that your Plague Marine suffers the injury debuff even though a Plague Marine can't normally be injured? There's a question. If you know the answer, stick it in the comments. You don't want to win a prize. If you won my class, I'll be able to give you a respect point, but you can have some of my actual respect, which is like a respect point, only it's actual respect. It's worth something. Yeah. Shrieking Harvest is pretty good. It gives you a ranged flamethrower. So you have to spend 2 AP rather than 1 to use it, but it means that you get Torrent. So you use Fusillade, which is the one that lets you split your dice between that you never do. Heavy bolters can do it. I've never played a game where somebody's like, yes, I'm going to use Fusillade. I mean, maybe right at the start of Kill Team when people were still taking things like Poxwalkers and Chaos Cultists, you might have used Fusillade. But basically, if you're firing into a situation where the thought, do I want to make use of Fusillade, has even entered your brain, then you're going to try and use Shrieking Harvest instead, because Torrent gives you, in the situation where with Fusillade you'd be splitting your dice, Torrent lets you have 5 dice against both of them. It's very, very good. Now it is Torrent, not Blast, so everyone has to be a legal target from the point of view of the Death Jester, which actually makes sense with this gun, doesn't necessarily make sense with the Flamethrower. Had that pointed out to me, even though I knew it, had that pointed out to me in a friendly game the other day, actually, yeah, no, it does have to be a legal target from the point of view of the firer, even though you'd think the fire could get around curves, I don't know. Yeah, really, really powerful piece, really useful at completing your Sadaths as well, which we'll talk about near the end. Listen, you're going to put him in every team, and there's nothing to customize. Let's look at this support grip. It's a piece of equipment, but oh my god, it should essentially be on your data sheet for no reason really other than everything else is 3 EP. Technically, you can take a piece of equipment, and then if you give it to this guy, it's 4 EP, so you might do that, but you wouldn't. You do this instead. You're going to take this in every single game, I guarantee it. You remove heavy. and then you give him the ability he can't move more than 3 circles in the same activation in which it performs a shoot action. But notice you could. It doesn't say he can't move. It doesn't say he can't dash. You might feel like it implies that, but you can't move more than 3 circles. So you could move, and this is where them breaking it down into circles and triangles and everything else is kind of unhelpful. And so I'm going to break the habit of a lifetime on this channel. 3 circles is 6 inches, right? I had to double check that. It is 6 inches, right? So whereas a dash, a blue, is 3 inches. So there's nothing stopping you, right, from moving up to a blue out with your move actions, or stopping short, shooting, and then using your dash to get you back into cover, as long as the total number of inches that you've moved in the activation doesn't get above 6. Circle is 2, right? Yeah, I'm so used to thinking about circles and triangles and squares. But yeah, essentially that is not the disadvantage that you might think it is on first reading. You can still do a pop out and fly back. Of course, if you're then doing Shrieking Harvest, that's going to cost 2 AP, so you couldn't do a dash back if you wanted to do Shrieking Harvest, but I guess you can't have your cake. You know, that would be like having your cake and your mate's cake and eating both of them. So, you know, but it's still really, really good. Death Jesters. Gotta love him. Also, he's a badass space clown, biker, sniper thing, you know. The Shadowseer! The Shadowseer is still better than a regular Harlequin, but doesn't light my world on fire in the same way as the Death Jester. So the Shadowseer has a choice of pistol. Now, when I first read over this, I was like, oh, well, you give the Shadowseer the basic pistol because she'll be too busy doing psychic powers to shoot. But actually, none of the psychic powers that you can manifest are shooting attacks. And she doesn't have a way to do more than 1, I don't think. So, yeah. Oh no, you psychic action, resolve a void down to Troupe, psychic power as specified. Oh, you can perform it twice. Okay, cool beans. So you can do 2. So maybe you want to put your good pistol on a regular guy. There's very little in it, but then this platform has this Shadowseer has an extra wound, so you keep it around for longer. But maybe you're using up more of your AP because you've got more to do. You're either giving the Neural Disruptor to Shadowseer or you're giving it to a player, and I don't think it makes much odds. You do what feels right to you. If you play 40k, equip the Shadowseer how you'd want to equip it in 40k, right? I don't know which way around that is, but that's probably what I'd do. The psychic powers. So, Mirror of Minds, let's start with that one. That's her, his, their, that's their offensive power, right? So you select a friendly operative within this operative's line of sight. Both players roll 66 and you pair your dice off, and for each matching pair the opponent suffers 1 mortal wound. So you're going to get somewhere between 0 to 6 mortal wounds, right? I'm guessing the average is 3, but I'm not a mathematician. It's not that strong, and it's not that good, except for 2 things. Number 1, as discussed, it's not a shoot action. So if you've closed into pistol range, you can use your Mirror of Minds and then you can throw your hallucinogen grenade if you've not thrown it already, or you can nope, hallucinogen grenade is not a shooting attack either. So you can Mirror of Minds, you can hallucinogen grenade, and you can shoot all in the same turn if you felt that you needed to. Obviously, that wouldn't involve any movement, but yeah. So my point is, you can shoot and you can Mirror of Minds in the same turn, which happened to me in the game I played against Zimbad. That's good. It's also one of the only apart from the Death Jester, it's one of the only really long-range things that the Harlequins have. So it gives you something to do in turn 1. At least you can imply a threat that you're going to jump up your Shadowseer, Mirror of Minds, and then dash him back down. You know, if you've got that kind of situation, to try and encourage your opponent to put everyone on conceal, because often against Harlequins it's that thing where you go, well, they've all got pistols, so I'll go on attack because they're not going to get any shots off at me. At least now they've got a second range threat, so there's that possibility there of trying to persuade them to stay out of an area or to stay on conceal. Even if in reality it's not going to do that much damage, it's certainly not going to kill anybody, even on its best possible thing. It's not going to kill a 7 wound novitiate, because it's only going to do 6 damage. It's also got a buff and a debuff, so Veil of Tears is pretty funny. If it's situational but funny, basically it makes it much more difficult for someone to charge the Harlequin that you've cast it on. Okay, they have to have started their turn within red. So for all intents and purposes, you're going to use it, you're going to make somebody immune to being charged. It's pretty good. Fog of Dreams is weird. So you pick an enemy and roll a dice until the end of the turning point. That operative has a GA of 1, even if it had a GA of high before. It can't be activated or perform actions until it's the last enemy operative to be activated, or a number of enemy operatives have been activated equal to the result of the d6. So I guess what it's useful for is if you're going first and there's a key piece, your opponent's got a key piece that's going to do something, is going to win the game or kill one of your guys, and you're not confident you can kill it with 1 activation, you can activate Shadowseer, you can Fog of Dreams, and then you can use the rest of your team then to try and kill that Pulsod as he sits there, not able to activate, unless you roll. It's risky because if you roll a 1 on your d6, then you've only got 1 activation to injure him. But I suppose you can Fog of Dreams and whittle him down with your pistol, and then if you're close enough, because Fog of Dreams doesn't have a range, but potentially, yeah. But assuming you don't roll a 1, it's useful, yeah, it is. But situational, right? Shadowseers, I like him. She's also got a combat weapon, 4/5 with stun, which compares pretty favourably. It's only 4 dice, but it's 4/5 with stun. Obviously, she's not for combat, but she's not like bad at it. Right, still going to kill people. Players. So this is where we have to have a little bit of thought and a little bit of choice. So first of all, players are the same stat-wise as everything we've just looked at, except that, as discussed, they have 1 less wound. So they're only 8 wounds. Still 1 more wound than a novitiate, though. If you've used your fusion pistol, like your fusion pistol should be on your leader, and probably I put the Neurodisruptor on the Shadowseer. If you haven't put the Neurodisruptor on the Shadowseer, then you build a player with a Neurodisruptor. Otherwise, you're stuck with Shuriken pistols. The real choice comes from the 4 combat weapons. 3 of them are functionally the same, but with a different special rule. So the Blade has Balanced, the Caress has Rending, and the Embrace has Brutal. This is a change from the Compendium, where previously the Caress was also a little bit worse damage. I still think that the Blade is the best one. So just to recap, for anyone that's forgotten, Balanced lets you reroll 1 miss. Rending means if you crit, you can make a hit into a second crit. And Brutal means that you can only parry by crits. So I basically rate the Blade as the best, the Caress is somewhere in the middle, and the Embrace is being the worst, because Brutal I think is the least useful. Honestly, there's not that much in it, but I think the reroll is the best thing. Again, not a math magician. So Blades, I think, are my default pick. And then weighing up between Blades and Kisses, I don't like the Kiss. Now, the Kiss team's a bit of talking about. So the Kiss doesn't have a special rule, so you've lost that reroll. It gains an extra 2 points of crit, so it's crit damage 7. But its regular damage is 3. So it loses that regular point of damage from 4 to 3. Now, it depends on what you're playing against. If you're playing against novitiates that have 7 wounds, right? If you charge in with the kiss and do a crit, then you'll kill them before they get to hit you and take off the 3 or 4 wounds or whatever it is they're going to do to you, right? But if you fail to roll a crit, then you're going to need an extra hit, because you're going to go hit for 3, they're going to hit you back, you're going to hit for 3, having done 6 damage out of 7, they're going to get a second hit back on you, and then you hit for 3 again and kill them, hopefully, if you've got 3 hits, whereas all the others will kill them in 2 regular hits. Okay? So I don't like it for that. Now, obviously, other kill teams exist. If you're fighting against a team with 8 wounds, it's more difficult, right? So it's even less useful, because you're still going to need 2 hits to kill them. And then you start thinking about multiples, and I can't remember all the different wounds thresholds off the top of my head, but with the beefier, the marine teams, you start looking at multiples. Are they multiples of 7, or are they multiples of 8, and how many hits is it going to be to kill them? But I don't like the kiss because it's a gamble. The only time in which I like the kiss is if you're going to take the super tensile monofilament wire, which is 3 AP, which then buys that initial strength, that damage, back up to 4, so it's 4/7, so it's no longer a gamble with a downside. If you don't crit, then it's just as if you'd use something else. If you get the crit, then you can one-hit something. If it's a sister or a guardsman, also have 7 wounds, don't they? You can one-hit those things. So the kiss is, I guess, a matter of taste. For my first box, I'd probably go all blades, and then if I was going to get a few, if I played games and felt that the kiss would be useful, that's what I'd be considering. I might have up to 3 on the roster, so I could run 3 kisses, all with the super tensile monofilament wire. While we're talking about weapons, there's also accelerated monofilament wire, which tries to carve out a niche for the embrace, which is the one I described as being the worst weapon, and it gives it a horde clearing roll, 3 EP to give it Reap 1 and lethal 5 up. The Reap 1 feels super pointless, because even against big teams, it's really niche to get that Reap 1 off. Lethal 5 up is good though, because it means that you might be doing more damage. I think embraces with the upgrade edge the blades, because if they had lethal 5 up as stock, I'd take them all day long. It comes down to you as to where do you want to take the monofilament wire, the upgrade for 3 EP. Are you someone that ends the game having not thrown your grenades? Is basically where this comes down to it, right? So if you want to do what I think the pro players will do, what most people who make videos like this will say you'll do, you'll take 3 grenades and then the previously discussed, you're always taking that upgrade for the Death Jester. You've got 9 other points to play with because you've taken your 1-point grip for your Death Jester. The pro players will say take 3 grenades. So each one of these that you take, each one of these weapons that you're taking, you're losing a grenade. I would be more inclined to look at the kisses with the super tensiles, but I guess if you've bought that second box, right, so you've got a second set of 6 players, if you're just a kill team player, if you built your first box all with blades, then your second box you build 3 with embraces and 3 with kisses. And basically, I can't see that the caress gets a look in. And I say this, and Zimbad runs all caresses, but I think that's because he likes the miniature, right? But we are like, they're all solid. Like, we're saying like which one's better and which one's worse. They'll kill you just as dead. There's like milliliters of difference in it. I feel like the kiss is potentially worth spending the 3 EP on in a way that I don't think that the embrace is, and I don't know why I think that, but I do. Even though lethal 5 up is really good, and getting to consistently get that extra point of damage, or more consistently get that extra point of damage is really good, but I think it comes back to what I was saying about wound thresholds. A 5 over a 4 feels near, whereas getting a 7, you know, yeah. But your takeaway, if there can be a takeaway, should be that blades are the default pick, I think. Blades are the default pick. So if you're doing it from one box, do all blades. Equipment. So we already talked a lot about some of these. We talked a lot about the support grip. It's pretty much an auto include. We've talked a lot on the last slide about the monofilament wire and the super tensile monofilament wire. Right, let's talk about the other thing. You've got a grenade. The grenade's got stud in it. It's really good. Like, that is the... I'm not saying always take 3, but I'm saying, like, when you're buying one of the other 3 equipment point things, you're going to say to yourself, is it as good as a grenade? That's the kind of the yardstick that you should put into your head. Is it as good as a grenade? Now, some people, and I include myself in here, I went for a long phase. I never said grenades because I forgot to use them. I'm trying to get better at throwing frag and crack grenades. I think crack grenades are really key. As novitiates, this isn't a novitiate video, but I think crack grenades are key against the right matchups. But yeah, grenades I think are the way to go. Obviously, if you're playing against an elite team, it is basically it's a better frag grenade. It is not a crack type grenade. You know, it is a blast grenade doing 4 damage. So if you're playing against legionaries or warp coven without any goats, then maybe you don't want to take the prismatic grenades, and maybe that's when you start looking at going into your kisses with the super tensile monofilament wire. You know, against those elite teams, I think that's what the kisses are for. You take to get 3. I'm selling myself on the concept now that you roster 3 Harlequins with kisses to rotate into your force when you're either playing potentially novitiates because they got so few wounds, or guard because they got 7 wounds and you can one hit them, or when you're playing against a big elite team and you want to really, you know, chip them as hard as you can. Other picks, the Wraithbone Talisman, it gives you once per battle when you're fighting in combat, making sure to attack, shooting has to be made against it. You can use the reroll for free without spending command points. In a minute, we're going to look at their special rules, their say-deaths. You're going to have so many command points that you're going to be not sure what you're doing with them all. And for the same reason, I don't rate the death. Like, these should be really good. In a lot of other kill teams, they'd be really good. But again, or put it on a guy, then when he dies, you gain a command point. And yeah, no. I like this one. I like the pure psycho crystals, not because they're good, but because if you have, especially if you have a situation where you have a Harlequin with that, you're a disruptor, just a Harlequin player, at least giving him that, it gives you another piece that might potentially kill something, you know, in one hit maybe, or, you know, it gives you more of a useful piece to go along with your leader and 2 characters. It gives you a 4th kind of more elite piece, I think. But, like, realistically, you're not taking it. Realistically, you're taking 3 grenades and the support grip, or you're taking 3 upgraded kisses and the support grip, I think. The Shrieker Toxin rounds, so if for some reason you decided not to take a support grip, this is your only other way of spending your 10th EP, is by buying the 4 EP version to give your Death Jester's cannon Mortal Wounds 1 critical hit rule. It's not worth it. Likewise, giving it to Shuriken Pistols isn't worth it either. Not for 3 EP. Like, it's a good rule, but just look at the rest of the menu. Do you want a grenade, or do you want to have Mortal Wounds 1 on a Shuriken Pistol? I don't think the answer is that you want Mortal Wounds 1 on a Shuriken Pistol. Also, and this is just a me thing, it does my head in, but you're going to have, what, 6 Shuriken Pistols in your team, and you can't buy this 6 times, you can't afford it, so you'd have to remember which ones had it and which ones didn't, and you start balancing loom bands or tokens on people, and it's like, no. So the equipment is really, really good, but I think there are some red herrings on there. Okay? Yeah. Ploys. Harlequin ploys are really, well, the first one I want to talk about is Domino Field. So Domino Field has been quite significantly nerfed. So there are two big nerfs to this team versus Compendium Harlequins. The first one is that Compendium Harlequins could take 2 fusion pistols. Now you can only take 1 fusion pistol. And the second one is here, Domino Field does now not work if you are within red of the target operative. So against novitiates, Domino Field's pretty pointless because they've all got pistol weapons. It's a niche thing, I guess, but it is a nerf. You know, turning point 2, certainly turning point 3 and 4, things are going to be close range firefights, and it just means that Domino Field is not as powerful as it used to be. It really does make a tangible difference, and it does make them easier. Obviously, it's going to protect you from snipers, it's going to protect you from long range firepower, it's going to protect you from heavy bolters on vantage points, and against some teams like Vet Guard or Mechanicum or, you know, anything where you've got that guy on your back line trying to pour in long range fire, it's still very, very good. But against other mobile teams, other skirmishy teams that want to get into the middle of the board with you, it suddenly stops. It's that dead zone is much more punishing. So you can't rely on Domino Field to keep you alive against those sorts of teams. Look at the other strategic ploys. So you've got Between Colours, which is really fun sounding. It basically lets you interrupt your move to shoot and then continue moving. But you can't do that with the Death Jester, although as discussed, the Death Jester still can use his 3 AP to pop out and go back in. But all this is saying is that you can't do, because if you could use this on the Death Jester, then you could spend a command point and you could pop out, shoot with your 2 AP torrent shot, and then disappear back, which would, like I say, it'd be in your cake, your neighbour's cake, your mum's cake, and yeah, so it will be taking a lot of cake, basically. Prismatic Blur. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Void Dance Troupe operative performs an action in which it moves, it is a prismatic blur until the end of the turning point. And so when you shoot it, essentially it's a lot of text to say that when you're shot, you can re-roll one of your defense dice as long as you've moved. Yeah, strong. Sigarax Jest. Until the end of the turning point, each time friendly Void Dancer operative fights in combat, once in your resolve successful hit step out like combat, when your opponent strikes the hit, you can roll d6 if it's equal to or less than the weapon's characteristic of the enemy operative selected melee weapon. Treat that strike as a parry instead. See, this is like a really toned down version of something that the Compendium team have, and it seems really toned down to me because, you know, you've got to make the roll to get it. They used to just be able to turn on, I think this is what used to be called Prismatic Blur, and now Prismatic Blur is something totally different. It used to just be, oh yeah, no, you know, you can't hit me, you've parried me instead because I've spent the command point. It's not how it works anymore. You can turn it on, and you have to roll dice, and blah, blah, blah. It's still quite good, and you are going to be drowning in command points, as we'll see in a minute, so you may as well turn it on, perhaps. But it's not as good as it used to be. I think the pick from here from strategic ploys, even though it's been nerfed, Domino Field, but just be aware, I don't think their strength is in the strategic ploys. I think their strength is actually in their tactical ploys, as we're about to see. So Murderous Entrance. After you charge, during your activation, you strike the critical hit, and then you can immediately select the remaining dice and strike with it, which is really good. As someone that plays novitiates who have 7 wounds, but any of those 7 wound, 8 wound teams, you're suddenly getting to kill people without getting tapped back in return. And usually that's the trick. Like, that's in a lot of kill team games. If you're not playing an elite team, you're playing a bespoke team, you expect that the kind of cadence of the combat to be, I've been charged, so therefore I'm probably going to die, but I am going to take off a third of the wounds of the person that charged me, leaving them vulnerable. So when I you know, so being able to kill anyone without taking anything back is really good, and you're going to have a lot of this CP, so really good. The curtain falls for a CP. You can go, you can strike, and then you can immediately fall back for 1 AP, right? Normally you couldn't because you charged. If you charged, right? So you can attack, fall back. And then if you start Ruthless Derision. If you'd started a turn in combat, if you fall, now this one I have to check in my brain because this says use this tactical ploy after rolling your attack dice for a shooting attack. So it needs to be legal if you do a shooting attack. In an activation in which you performed a fallback action. Now I'm just could be wrong about the rules. I didn't think you could shoot when you'd fall back. But this is saying, if you fall back and then shoot, so with your 3 CP, what you can't do is charge, fight, use curtain falls, fall back, use Ruthless Division. That doesn't work, that's too many CP. But if you were in combat at the start of your activation, then you fall back and shoot, which I didn't think you could do. But if you can do it, which this implies that you can, you fall back, shoot, and you can re-roll your attack dice. Oh, I wish I had my cool rulebooks in the other room just to double check. I really did think if you fell back you couldn't then shoot. Mind blown. Mind blown. In the comments, tell me I'm wrong. Capricious Roll. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Void Dance Troupe operative is activated. Until the end of its activation, it can dash and charge while within engagement range of any operatives. Situational, but strong. I think, again, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. I think the strength of the team is in the tactical ploys. The strategic ploys, not so much, which is a real flip from the compendium version, right? Real flip from the compendium version. Okay, let's look at the nonsense. So all of the made for kill teams, the bespoke teams, as it is generally termed, have nonsense. So Sisters of Battle have their faith stuff, and Admech have their canticle things. Commandos just get to charge from stealth, which is quite powerful, but just it's funny because it's only one sentence as opposed to this. I just punched the microphone because I was gesticulating wildly. I hope that sounds fine. I'm just going to keep talking and assume everything's fine. You know, this whole page of nonsense. So Sadaths. Let me try. This is hard to understand. And it's going to take a long time, I think, before how this works. Like, the Harlequin players probably understand it already, right? It's going to take a little while for the general population to understand it. And that's partially, I think, why Harlequins are winning games. Because certainly, Zimbad's, I'm playing a game, and Zimbad goes, oh, point tally, that means a bit. And I'm just sitting there across the table going, yep, good, yeah, don't really understand what you've done, what I could have done about it. But if you're telling me the rules say that you've got this buff, then, you know, 2 thumbs up and let's keep rolling dice. And I know that's how players across from me when I'm playing the Vitiates feel sometimes, and I'm wobbling on about faith points as well. It's just one of those things. So there's a time it takes for the Harlequin players to understand it, and then there's the bigger lag when everybody starts trying to understand the bullshit that all the other teams have. Let me try and break it down with you, or at least share my understanding so that somebody can correct me in the comments when I get it wrong. So, we'll start here. When selecting your kill team for the battle, select an allegory. So these are your allegories: comedy, epic, melodrama, odyssey, and tragedy. I'm not really sure that they're using the word allegory correctly. These would be more like themes, wouldn't they? Or genres, but sure. Allegories. Select allegories when you allude to something, right? So if I write a story about, I don't know, if I write a story like Wind in the Willows, and then I say, but actually the weasels are an allegory for the fascist brown shirts or industrialism or whatever it is that Wind in the Willows is supposed to be an allegory for. I'm getting hella sidetracked, aren't I? But basically, what kind of allegory are you? Oh, I'm a comedy. This word should be the word genre. And I realise that there's like, at best, one other person watching this video that cares, but calling these allegories is just like somebody at Games Workshop Towers flipped through a notebook of like fancy drama-y words and went, oh yeah, let's call them allegories. Like, epic is not an allegory. unless I'm wrong, I mean, I'm not an English teacher, right? But my understanding of an allegory is like when, like, I'll give you another example, like when Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, and then there was like Mordor, and that was where all the industry and the chimneys are, and that's like Birmingham, versus the Shire, where all the hobbits live, and that's like the nice countryside idyll, and it was a whole thing was an allegory for industrialization being evil because Tolkien was a hippie. I mean, if that's news to anybody, go and read the books and read the bit about Tom Bombadil, and my God, there's a reason that they cut that out of the movies. Sorry, should I edit? I'm not editing anything. Allegories, right? You select your kill team from the battle, you select an allegory. I'm wincing, you can't see, but I am. To be active for it during the battle and reveal it to your opponent when you reveal your kill team. So you've picked one of these, right? You pick one. And you tell your opponent, I've picked the melodrama allegory, and they say that's not worth it. No, they say, fine, yes, good, smile and nod. They don't know what it means, right? Because we've not got to the point where the other person will really have a handle on what you're doing. But you go, I've picked the melodrama allegory, right? Good. And so then you are also you're also tasked to pick a pivotal role. So you nominate one of your models and say, this is my pivotal role, okay? And then what you've got to do is say you'd picked, what did I say, melodrama. The operative incapacitates an enemy operative in a shooting attack by inflicting damage with 2 or more attack dice in the resolve hits critical step. So what you do is you engage your giant brain and you say, which of my characters is most likely to do that, right? And then you make your Death Jester the pivotal role for your melodrama allegory, okay? Because he's the one with the long range cannon, right? And you play your game, and every time you add, you do that performance, you incapacitate an enemy operative in a shooting attack by inflicting damage with 2 or more attack dice, you get a point. I believe they're called performance tally points. You get a performance tally point. When your Death Jester does it, you get 2. Okay, that's what these bullet points say. They say the first time each friendly Void Dance Troupe operative completes the performance of an active allegory during the battle, you get a point. The first time a friendly pivotal role operative completes the performance of an active allegory during the battle, cumulative, you get a point. Now what you can't do is just spam it with your Death Jester. He can only get you the 2 points the first time. The first time during the battle. So you've got to get to 4 points, right? You get all these buffs, but you can't just Death Jester twice to get your 4 points. You've got to Death Jester for 2 of them, and then 2 other people have to have incapacitated at least 4 guys, right? Once you've done that, you get all of this, you get this huge packet of win, right? All friendly Void Dance Troupe operatives have the accolade ability of the active allegory. So these, I completely skipped over this. I'm so sorry. God, this is... If someone was hoping for a concise guide, right, to how Sadas worked in the new Harlequin kill team, given that I've gone off on a little rant about both Lord of the Rings and Wind in the Willows, this is not that, right? So you've picked melodrama, and I should have explained, it does say here, you're, in our example, where you're giving your Death Jester the pivotal role, the Death Jester gets this from the start of the game. Each time an operative makes a shooting attack in the roll attack dice step, you can re-roll one of your attack dice. So getting you 2 points from your Death Jester doing this is really easy. You just have to get the other 2 from somewhere, from 2 of your other pistol weapons. And then when you've done that, all your Harlequins get this. All of them. Every single one. Okay? Now? And you gain a command point. Right? And, slightly absurdly, every single turn you get an extra command point. Right? So probably you're getting an extra command point for turning point 3 and 4, plus an extra. So you're getting 3 command points that you didn't have before, which is why you didn't need to take those those war gear items that give you command points. Okay, we basically understand it. What we have to do now is touch on performance lead. Alright, so this is the ability that the leader has, the troop leader, that we glossed over when we did the troop leader's card. Once per battle. Once, one time deal. Right? Once per battle. In the strategy phase, when it's your turn to use strategic ploy or pass, you can use this ability instead. If you do, select a different allegory to be active for your kill team. So you can change from melodrama to, let's go for epic. Epic! And then, that's your performance now. That's your allegory, I'm so sorry, that you're doing, right? And you can set a different operative for your pivotal role, alright? The new pivotal role will therefore have the accolade ability of the new active allegory, and your performance tally remains unchanged. Therefore, if the tally was 4 or more, you have all the operatives have the accolade ability of the new active allegory. So there are two basic schools of thoughts here, right? First one is you get the one that you think is the easiest to get the 4 points in, whichever one you might think that might be, okay? And you get your 4 points, and then you swap to the one that has the most useful buff. Or you start with melodrama with your Death Jester as your pivotal role. He kills one person, you get 2 points. Then you swap to epic, right? At the start of turn 2. And at the start of turn 2, you use your eyes and look at the table, and you look to see which of your Harlequins that you've set up to do a charge that's going to get him to kill somebody, right? And you make that person your pivotal role, right? And then he gets to strike or parry with a normal hit as if it was a critical. And if he incapacitates somebody, you get your second 2 points and you got 4 points. And then everybody has got that accolade, that combat accolade for the rest of the game. I think that's what you do a lot of the time. I'm sure there are people that have studied this harder than I have and find it useful for comedy, odyssey, tragedy, genres, allegories, those things. Wind in the Willows. I'm sure there are other people that will give you better advice than this, but that is my understanding of what you should do and why you should do it. Now this ties in with the tactical objective, so let's get on to that first, because if I go for over an hour, nobody will watch to the end of the video. Right. Tactical objectives. 2 of them I think are really strong. Mythic play. If you're using the Sadath ability, which you are, reveal this tack off in the target reveal step at the first turning point. If your performance tally is 4 or more, you score a victory point. Well, you're going to be trying to do that anyway. And it's quite easy to do in the way I've just outlined, right? If your performance tally is 6 or more, you get your second victory point. So in other words, even though mechanically you don't need to get above 4 for the purposes of anything to do with Sadath, you don't get anything extra from the Sadath rule for getting your performance tally above 4. The performance tally does not go away, and if you manage to get to 6, which if you follow my advice, you'll be in this one. And so what we're basically saying is we've got to kill 2 more people in combat, because we've got 2 points from our first pivotal player, our Death Jester, shooting somebody. Then we swapped using our leader, and we got 2 points from whoever looked likely, because they're all good in combat apart from the Death Jester, killed somebody, got us 4 points. And then we just need 2 other Harlequins that have not been pivotal roles, right, to contribute a point each from killing people in combat. You're probably going to kill 2 more people in combat in turn 3 or turn 4. Then you're going to get all your points and you're going to score the attack up. You don't really have to think about it. If you've done the mental labour to understand the Sadath rules, then you're going to score the points for Mythic Play as a kind of after effect. Grand Act, I also kind of like Grand Act. People don't seem to understand this one quite as much. You reveal it, okay, you start a Grand Act tally, so it's separate to your performance tally. Nothing to do with your performance tally. It doesn't really interact with the Sadath rules except that it references them. Add 1 to the tally each time, each different performance. These are the performances, this column. Each time you do one of these things, you get a point. Note it does not have to be the active Allegories performance, right? If you get 5 points, you get a victory point. So let's have a look. Kill someone in close combat. Yeah, you're gonna do that, aren't you? Right? You're gonna incapacitate someone with a shooting attack. Yeah, you're gonna do that. That was in our plan as well. You're gonna lose wounds from a shooting attack made by an enemy operative. Yeah, that's probably gonna happen to you, right? Admittedly, your opponent could stubbornly refuse to shoot you, so you didn't score Grand Act, and then you'll win anyway because your opponent refused to shoot you. The only 2 of which these are nebulous. Perform a fallback action where you can just pointlessly do that. If it gets to turning point 3 and you haven't done it, just do it. Just slightly disadvantageously fall back out of a combat to get yourself 2 victory points. Okay. The only one that's tricky, because you do need to do each one time, is performing a charge action and end your move within red of your opponent's drop zone. And I guess that depends on the board, because in some boards that's trivial, because within red of your opponent's drop zone is practically their half of the table. In a couple of boards where it's all along one side and you're on blue, it's a little bit shallower, but come on, you're a fast mobile team, it shouldn't be that hard, right? So those 2 I love, and I would take them every single. I mean, sometimes the draw 2 will screw you and you'll get Mythic Play and Grand Act in the same hand and you won't be able to get both of them, but I would take them, I would take both of them whenever I could. And you'll certainly be taking at least one. If you have to choose, Mythic Play is easier to score, right? If you draw them both and you get screwed by your deck. Mythic Play is easier to score. Hero's Path I wouldn't bother with. It could just be because I have a smooth brain, but it seems like too much counting in a faction that already has too much counting. So you reveal it when a friendly Void Dance Troupe operatives incapacitates an enemy operative at the start. At the end, so far so good. At the end of the battle, if that friendly operative is incapacitated, more enemy operatives than each other friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative during the battle, you score a VP. I don't like it. I don't like that bullet point. So when you kill somebody, you can reveal it. So if you accidentally kill somebody first with a regular player and then your leader kills somebody, you can like go, well, my leader's going to kill more people because he's got his power sword and his melter pistol. So I'll reveal Hero's Path on him, and then you've got to make sure he incapacitates more people than anybody else, which is difficult, and then make sure it ends up in your opponent's drop zone, which depends on the scenario. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great, and I don't like it. I think I haven't looked through the decks, basically, that aren't security enough to know whether there's so much jank in there that you'd put Hero's Path in. I'd hope not to have to take it, but be happier taking it than some complete bit of awfulness that could come out of your deck, right? But it's definitely the weaker one, okay? Oh my gosh, I've been rambling for over an hour, I think. Although when I go onto a new slide, the timer goes down a little bit on PowerPoint. I don't understand. They're obviously definitely a top tier team, but I don't think they're unfathomably broken as some people think. I think they're up there with Novitiates, with Vetguard, you know, as a team that is gonna give you a really rough time. But I also think Commandos are up there. I don't know about Pathfinders post nerf. Like, nobody in our little 3-person meta cares about Pathfinders. So neither me or Mrs. Tails Impulse or Zimbad. No, Zimbad has Pathfinders, that's true. None of us have Vetguard. He never brings them, no. Like, he has them, he's built them, he played a couple of games, but yeah. A little bit of a confession about time management. So I'm a teacher, as I've said in previous videos. I've had 2 weeks on holiday. I spent the first little bit going around, visiting Liverpool, doing the dutiful kind of sun stuff, talking to my parents, and then I had some drinks with some friends, and then one of my friends was like, you should play Elden Ring, and then I've played Elden Ring for 4 days, kind of like wake up, sit in front of the computer, play Elden Ring, go to bed kind of thing. So I've got other stuff I need to do. I've not really finished a painting project this year. It's just funny when your hobbies start competing with your other hobbies, so there's that. But you're getting a video. Like, I like to think even though what the YouTube algorithm would like is for me to do a 10-minute video every day, if I do a 60-minute video once a week, that's the same number of minutes. Like, nobody's going to watch till the end. If you watch till the end of the video, and I hate it when YouTube people do things like this, but I'm genuinely curious. So if you watch till the end of the video, just tell me, what is your favourite Games Workshop paint colour, just in the comments, so that I know that you're in like a special club with me of people that wanted to listen to me talk for an hour. Alright, and with that, I hope you have an excellent evening. Right, I hope that whatever you're doing goes really well for you, and cheerio until the next video, which should hopefully be in a little bit more, a little bit sooner than this one was. Cheery bye.